All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Open Live Q&A. My name is Mr. McLogan, and thank you so much for joining me on this Sunday night. This is week number 140 of consecutive live streams that I'm able to contribute and answer your questions. So if you do have any math questions that you'd like for to go ahead and submit, then all you simply need to do is go ahead and go to this link, brianmclogan.com/Q&A, and you can submit your questions. So I already have a set of problems that I will be answering tonight. And then obviously if you have any like just kind of general questions or anything else that's probably conducive to answering on the chat, then you can just go ahead and put that on the live stream chat. And then also if you have any more additional questions throughout the year, you can also go ahead and check out my Discord server. So therefore you can also add not just questions from myself to be able to answer, because obviously I'm not going to get to every other question, or can I answer every single question? So therefore the Discord server is there for you guys as well. All these links are also in my description, as well as pinned in the comment form on there. So hope you guys have a good evening. I am excited to kind of talk to you guys a little bit about this topic that I know that a lot of you have kind of started school and kind of deciding if you should really jump in on class. And I know you might be thinking that, this is kind of obvious if I could jump out of the class, or if I should get out of the class or not. But I think I do have a couple things that you can benefit from, and that will also help you understand, is it really the best choice to drop a class or get out from on there? So, hello, Matthew. Hope you're doing all right. Did you take AP Calc? I did not take AP Calc, actually. I took pre-calculus as a senior, and then so I didn't take calculus actually until sophomore year in college. Hey, John, through the years. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. And hey, hello. Owen, hey, are you starting my second year at university? Awesome. This week, study math. I've been following your channel for a few years and find study advice to be universal and beneficial. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, exactly. Like even what I'm going to cover tonight about like dropping the class, that is extremely universal too. Not just have to be about math, right? It could really be about any of the courses. So definitely, hopefully for sure. And thank you so much for letting me know. I'm glad it's been helpful. And hey, Roblox Nation. Good to have you on, and 2K Challenge. I know you're on. I think you might have been the first comment. So congratulations and welcome on. And Justin, good to have you on again. MBMS, hello. Anna says, can you explain what like logarithmic is? And there, I'm from Saudi Arabia. Awesome. And I'm here just to thank you because you're reasonable. Awesome. So happy to be able to help. All right. So I did actually, that's actually a good question, Techie. I did actually want to become an engineer before I even knew like the math that it would actually take. But then once I actually got into university and started taking like math classes and realized like the math that engineers would need to take, I just didn't find it very appealing to me. I was much more of a pure math kind of person rather than like the application from stuff like that. That is very interesting. I'll have to go and take a look at that. All right, Ariana, you're right where I'm at. So I'm taking an AP human geography, and it's a lot of work along with my other classes, and I don't know if I should drop it. Absolutely. So let's go and talk about, I do have a couple questions that are pre-submitted, but let's go and talk about, should you drop your class? Because this is something that comes up every single year, right? And, usually at the beginning of the year or whatever else, like students always ask me, hey, should I drop this class? Whatever else, like, all right. There's a lot of things that go into this. And actually, I'm going to have a YouTube video that'll come out. I actually recorded it previously. So I'm actually going to give you guys a little bit of a summary on that video. And then obviously in the video, I'll go a little bit more in depth on some things. And then, but also be sending out an email for those of you that I also usually do an email with these type of videos. So if you have not joined on my email, then I'd highly recommend you go and do that. And if you submit a question, then that's one of the things you have to do to go and get an email address. And therefore, then I just kind of let you know as far as like some videos that are coming up. So let's go and think about like some of the reasons that you might want to or might feel like you need to drop the class. One is obviously it's a lot of work, right? You're putting it in, it's just taking up a lot of time for what else. And you might not be prepared. Like that's why you have to put in so much work, or like it's just demanding of your time. Or maybe you're not as well as prepared. So you have to do a lot more work, or it's taking a lot more work to like get your homework done or whatever else. Or, maybe there's another reason. Maybe you're just having even though it's like a lot of work, but it's also, you're really struggling to understand the concept. Maybe you do not like your teacher. Maybe you're struggling with learning from your teacher. You don't understand your teacher. or maybe you feel like your teacher is just not really doing a great job, like introducing the content. And it's just kind of like messing up your flow. And then I'd say also the third thing usually is like, I don't know, the class is boring. Maybe I'm not really sure if that's the major or the direction I really want to go to, or maybe my friends are in all the other class, so I want to get out of it. And I think for that last one, like, let's not really worry about that. Let's kind of, and also the third point also would be like if you're struggling with your grade, right? And obviously if you either need to stay within your coursework, or if you're trying to obtain a high GPA, then obviously those are going to be really important things. So here's the question that I want you to think about if you should be dropping the class. Okay. Because, obviously if you don't feel like it's like the right course for you, it's impacting your GPA, it's not really the direction you want to go in, right? Or you don't want to go into that major anymore. Well, then I think in those cases, like that's definitely a conversation with your teacher, with your parents and with your counselor that you kind of need to have, right? Because, what's the point of just taking a class that you're not getting really any benefit out of? And so if that is the case, I would highly recommend, like, you're going to have the conversation, like, do I need to stick this out? Is that really kind of worth it? And again, like that's a question I can't answer for you, right? That's really kind of one of those things that you need to be able to decide. But what I want to help you out with is, what about when you're struggling with your teacher? What about if you're struggling with your grade? What about when the class feels like it's taking too much time, or you're not doing as well in the class that you want to? Like, should you just drop the class now, right? And kind of like forget about it and then maybe come back to it later? Or should you like stick it through? And the question that happens, because every single year that I taught, there was always students that would try to get out of my class every single year. And a lot of it was because they, were struggling with either my teaching style, they weren't getting the grades that they wanted, or, they were realizing that it was like taking a lot more work, that they weren't as prepared as they thought they'd be. Obviously, that's why, a lot of times I would always try to make sure I did like diagnostic tests, did a lot of things to really help students know what to expect, as well as to help them be prepared and help them throughout the year. But regardless, there was always those students that were trying to drop out. And, we'd always have like a parent conference and we come in, they say like, hey, you're a good teacher maybe, but I don't learn well from you. Right. Or just like, you don't teach for my teaching style. Or maybe sometimes like, yeah, I don't like how you teach and blah, blah, blah. Like, be very honest a lot of times. And then also, some of them students got Fs, Ds, Cs. I even had students that dropped my class because they got a B and they never had a B before. But the one thing I always responded with students, and I look them in the eye and I say, you know what? If you want to drop my class, like obviously it's not really my decision and it shouldn't really be my decision. I'm just the teacher. But the question I always asked, or I wanted you to answer for me, is have you done every single thing that you are capable of doing the absolute best in this class? Like, you can struggle. That's normal, right? You can have trouble like understanding me or the workload or whatever else, but it's like, what are you doing to improve upon that? Because, a lot of times what I've noticed with students is they get so used to the way that last year was, or their last teacher. And they have a really hard time adapting to, different circumstances. And, a lot of times if a student has said like, yes, hey, I'm struggling and here's all the things I have done. And here's what I am doing. I have a tutor, I'm going to tutor lab, every day and whatever else. Like, sometimes in that case, I'd be like, all right, I do really feel like you are trying to adapt. You're trying to make it work and it's not working out. Right. So, yeah, let's get you out of the class. But 95% of the time when students are saying like, oh, I'm not doing well, like I'm not learning well from you, or I'm having a bad grade. And it was always like, are you doing everything you can do to be successful in this class? And that usually was met with some silence. And then they would, usually try to change the subject or go around some there. And then, then I'd kind of go through, I'm like, all right, well, let's talk about the things that you're struggling with. Right. And like, why you don't learn from me, or, why you're having trouble in my class, or why your grades are not as good as you want them to be. And as we list out those things, I'd say, all right, well, how about we talk about, I don't know, I was still this. So then I talk about like, well, how are we going to adjust this? Right. How are we going to, what are we going to do about it? Right. And that was usually the case for like I'm sorry, not what are we going to do about it, but what have you done about it? What have you done to improve upon those things? Like, that's the issue, right? You know that you have a hard time asking questions or understanding things. It's like, sorry, have you got a tutor? Have you come and stayed after school and got help from me? Like, what is it that you are doing to overcome these challenges that you are met with in this class? And majority of the time, students were not doing anything. They just wanted to kind of have an easy way out. And I think that's a really, really important lesson that I wanted to do this live stream on. It's like, I'm not saying you shouldn't drop your class. I have dropped a class before. Okay. So I realize, and I've also mentioned multiple times for students, hey, this class is not working out for you. You need to get another class, take it next year, do whatever the case. So I am definitely not a proponent of you always have to stay in the course. However, I will say that majority of the time that, at least in my own experience, when students are trying to drop their class or when students are asking me about, hey, should I drop the class? I just want you to kind of respond back with, have you done everything that you possibly can do to be acceptable or to be successful in the course? And if that answer is no, then you got to figure out what it is you can do to be successful. What are some things you got to change, right? You're going to have hard classes. You're going to have challenges in life. Like, you have to be able to figure out how to overcome them. And that's what that is what I want you to be able to try to like game plan and think about before you just say, all right, you know what? I need to get out of this class. Because not just because things get hard doesn't mean it's always a great excuse to get out of the class, right? Sometimes things are taking up a lot of time. Okay. What are some ways that maybe I can free up some time, or what are some ways maybe I can better manage my time? So therefore I can, decide or use which class I'm going to take. And then sometimes, like, Ariana's like, all right, human geography is taking up more of my time. And then let's say, I don't know, chemistry is like, you're also taking AP chemistry or something. They're like, well, where's your major? Like, what is the more important AP course? Like, maybe you can't do 2 or 3 AP courses, in the same year. Maybe that is too much. So which one is he going to drop? Is it going to be human geography, or is it going to be AP calculus or AP chemistry? Right. And I mean, that's a very, that's a good conversation that you need to kind of have. And especially when it comes into like workload or like where you're kind of, what are you trying to achieve? I would definitely recommend having that conversation with your parents, counselor, and your teachers, to kind of see what is going to be the best, for you, especially where you want to try to be, or what kind of, success you want to hold on for you. So hopefully that was a little bit helpful for you, but if you have any more questions or you want me to kind of elaborate on any points, feel free to let me know in the chat. Thank you. All right, let's go back to there. Hey, somebody said that. Awesome, Wilson. Good for you. Is being smart with all hard work? No. I mean, you got to define what means being smart in math. But I would say definitely like hard work is definitely a big component of it. But your ability to be able to make connections is really, I think, what a lot of students feel is like somebody being smart, whereas they have a good way of being able to connect what they don't know to what they do know really quickly. And that's going to come from a lot of their experiences. And a lot of that experiences does come from work, putting in the work and stuff like that. But a lot of students also have an environment that has been very conducive for them advancing in math. So I wouldn't just say everything is just pure muscle of, putting in the work, and that's why you're successful in math. But there is definitely a lot to it. Well, awesome. So happy to be able to help you out, John. Pre-calculus, to kind of give you a very, very rough, broad answer, I would just say pre-calculus is a lot of extended algebra 2 with some trig and application of trig. So to get you prepared, obviously, for calculus and some different topics from on there. But yeah, just to give a quick rundown. And then, also too, it's like if I'd maybe look at a table of contents for a pre-calculus book. You can find it online, just kind of see it. It does cover a lot of algebra 2 topics. But then, it gets into a lot of trig as well. Let's see. I was just kind of going back through. Yes, if you do have a question or a math question, then you guys can definitely go to brianmclogan.com/Q&A, or you can also just post any kind of question that's really not so much math form, but then you can just go and post them in the chat. So like Iron Fist posted this, any kind of math question, just go ahead and put it into brianmclogan.com/Q&A. That way I can like copy it and put it into that way I can kind of like copy it and put it onto my Notability app. Makes it a lot easier. Depends what kind of math or why you're taking math, right? Yeah, I mean, it all, if maybe math, maybe that is the end of your road. I don't know. Well, thank you very much. I got to lower it because I adjusted my everything in the background. Actually, I have tons of things I need to do on this background. It's kind of getting a little rough, but I got to go and fix it up. All right. Let me go ahead and actually get into the math portion and go from there. So yeah, I'm actually going to probably get right into the math from on this part and keep this one a little bit shorter than the live streams because I was traveling today. So I was actually out of town throughout the weekend. So I am a little tired. All right. So let me go ahead and should I drop class? Week 140 weeks. That's still crazy. At least to me, I always just think I'm like, God, it's like, and I haven't made it every single Sunday night, but if I did miss a Sunday night, I always was back on Monday. So I think that's maybe happened like 3 to 5 times. All right. So what are some subjects I should prep for on the SAT and how long should I be studying for? This is a great question I get all the time. And I would say for the SAT, ACT or any kind of, it doesn't matter whatever kind of math you're taking where you have like a big examination, stuff like that. I would just recommend doing as many problems as you possibly can. Okay. Ow. So, as far as subjects go, I wouldn't really worry with the subjects. What I would do is I would get test prep booklets or, test, websites and, or YouTube channels. Like I don't do SAT prep, but I would just focus on them, like focus on the content that they're providing you, because that's what's going to show up on the SAT and ACT. And that's what you want to be studying, right? You don't just want, focus on studying certain subjects that is going to be on the SAT, but they might be provided or show up in a weird format or something else. So I would just practice on doing as many practice examples as possible that you can possibly do. And as far as like how long should we be studying? I mean, yeah, that's a very broad, kind of hard to give a broad answer for that, but I would recommend at least like 4 to 6 weeks out, you should be studying and you should be ramping it up, like trying to do like, 5 problems a day, then get up to maybe 10 problems a day. And then obviously as you get really, really close to the test, then you can like tamper that down. But yeah, you should try to be consistent as best as possible with that. All right. This is a question that actually came in last week where I just didn't have time to read it. And that's why a lot of times when students will submit questions, I'm like, I can't always get to your questions from on there. But so in this one, I always tell students, like whenever we do like rotations or anything like that, then, just kind of visualize like what's going on here. So it says the line segment A, corner plane. So what transformation will result in a perpendicular line to N? So 90 degrees clockwise. So if you just kind of take this, you just rotate this 90 degrees. Hopefully you're going to see like the X and the Y swapped, right? So that slope is also swapping. And you can see how that's actually producing a 90-degree answer. So A is going to be my answer here. So it's right there. And you can even do that with a piece of paper. Like literally if you're taking a test or something like that, like when I used to teach geometry, I would literally have 2 students during the test. They would just like be going like this all the time. And just to kind of show you also like why the other answers don't work. Oh, come on. Oh, and that is a rotation about the origin. But again, even if it was a rotation about a point negative, like it's not going to matter from on there. It's still going to produce that point because all the rest of these are incorrect. Like a reflection about the x-axis, that's going to look something, what is it, 5? That's going to look something like that. That is not perpendicular. 180-degree reflection is, going to be something like that. And a reflection about the y-axis is going to be something like that. Right? So you can see how none of those are going to be perpendicular. So A is going to be the answer. What was the one I saw? I know that many colleges, a lot of colleges don't require the SAT anymore, So, and that's why one thing that I've like just never really been that, I don't know, very like stressed on it from on there. All right. So when you rationalize the denominator, the main thing, like when we're trying to rationalize, the main thing that we're trying to do is get rid of this radical. All right. So what we can do is like the main thing I want you to understand is with getting the radical is like knowing the difference of two squares. So if I had a minus b, okay, and I multiply that a plus b, what that's going to give me, that makes a weird thing. That's going to give me a squared. Why is this not being able to write? A squared minus ab squared. Okay, because what happens here is my middle terms, my negative b times a and my a times b, those are going to add to 0. So you can think about this as an a minus a b. All right. And so if I want to rationalize the denominator, all I'm going to do is multiply by the conjugate, which is going to be the exact same expression, but a plus b. All right. So if I was going to have that, I would just multiply by square root of x plus the square root of x plus h. Now this one looks pretty crazy down below, but I'm not actually going to multiply everything out here. I'm just going to leave it down there. Oh, sorry. What am I doing? Whatever you do on the top, you also have to do on the bottom, right? So I'm going to also multiply in the denominator the square root of x plus the square root of x plus h. Okay, now when rationalizing, the main thing we want to do here is, again, we're just going to multiply our first two terms and then subtract it from the product of the last two terms. And then this denominator here, I'm not actually going to multiply that through. I'm just going to leave that from on there. Yes, go ahead and submit it to bradmclogan.com/Q&A, and I'll be more than happy to do that. Can you show me how to write a piecewise formula? Yeah, okay. Yeah, what I mean by it's a lot. I need the math to be able to post up here, so that's why if you can post your questions from there, it's a lot easier for me to work on. So it's a minus b times a plus b. So square root of x times square root of x, it's just gonna be an x. And then square root of x plus h plus a square root or times a square root of x plus h is just going to be I'm sorry, that's supposed to be a minus a x plus h, right? So again, we got to make sure we are squaring that or leaving that in those parentheses. And therefore, then over here, I have x square root of our h times square root of x times the square root of x plus h times the square root of x plus the square root of x plus h. Whew, it's a lot. Now here, you can see I can distribute this, right? So x minus x is just going to be a negative x. So therefore, my final answer, it'll be a negative h all over h times the square root of x times a, what am I doing? And then there'll be times a square root of x plus h times a square root of x plus a square root of x plus h. Voila. Oh, there we go. Let me get this back up from there. I want to see. You gotta be able to see from there. Jacob says, not for that. Oh, why can't I show that? Well, best of luck, Eco. He did show him this. Will you be making courses for Calc 1 and 2? Yes, I plan on doing that. I got to go back through the calculus curriculum, which I'm going to plan on doing this year. And then, which I'm making videos, and I will have some videos on YouTube, but also putting a lot of those videos on TikTok as well. So a lot of the short form content going through on there. So I just want to kind of go through that content before I actually start posting the YouTube or making the courses from in there. And yeah, I mean, all my live streams really, I wouldn't really say they revolve around pre-calculus, but yeah, that's a lot of the questions. They definitely, come through as well. I mean, get your own work, I mean, I'm assuming you have a book, right? So you have some ways to kind of practice some problems. I mean, I think there's a lot more with teaching than just notes, right? You absolutely got to practice. So that's good that you're looking for it. But there's tons of free resources online. And then also, look at the problems in the book and do some of those as well if you can. No, just teaching whatever questions that students submit at bradmclogan.com/Q&A. No tips on physics. That was the class that I dropped, unfortunately. So yeah, not so great. It's, I don't know. I mean, you can, if you want your question answered on Discord, then I would go to Discord. I only answer questions that are through that link through on there. So, I mean, you can go through, I'm not sure why it's broken on your end, but it should be working. So maybe just try typing in directly or maybe using a different browser. All right, guys. As I mentioned, I am going to try to keep this one a early live stream, but I will definitely be on next week to answer your questions. So hopefully you guys have a great week, and I wish you guys all the best, and I'll see you guys next week. All right, cheers. I mean, I have no idea what's on your test, but best of luck.